Hello and welcome to RV Advisor's All Things RV podcast. I am your host, Kathy Conrad. I've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for over 5 years, and I love helping new RVers realize their RV dreams. This podcast is about RV education, resources, adventures, and the amazing people who love RVing. It is also about discovering the freedom RVers experience, the connection with nature that we are all so grateful for, and how RVing enriches our lives. On this podcast, you can expect us to talk about all things RV, including the good stuff, the challenging stuff, and everything in between. So join us weekly and enjoy the lineup of guests we have in store for you. Hey friends, and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new to All Things RV podcast, welcome and thank you for joining us. I hope you find this podcast helpful if you are on a journey to become an RVer, or even if you already have an RV. So last week, I talked about how to get the most out of going to an RV show. And then I was planning to go. There were actually 3 RV shows in my area within a 2-week period that I was really excited to go to and hopefully bring you back some other tips and information. But, I was pretty sick and I did not feel like going out at all. So unfortunately, I missed all 3 of those. So I'm pretty bummed about that. But down along those same lines around what's the best way to go about determining what type of RV you want to get and that sort of thing. So today I want to talk about some questions to ask yourself to help you to determine what type of RV is going to suit your camping and travel style. And, there's just some questions to ask yourself. So, hey, grab a notebook and a pen, take some notes, because if you can just kind of walk down this path with me and write it down, you can, start on your list already on which direction it looks like you might be needing to go as far as an RV goes. Your travel style and how you're going to use your RV is a huge factor. So something you might ask yourself is, how often do I plan to use my RV? Are you going to be just a weekend warrior? Are you going to be full-time in your RV? Are you going to be seasonal and maybe just take 1 or 2 big trips a year in the summertime? Because all 3 of those types of travel are better served by totally separate types of RVs. So something to think about. Will you be traveling long distances or staying mostly in one place? Maybe you don't want to take those big cross-country trips. Maybe you just want to upgrade your camping experience, within your same state and just travel within your state and not go on super long trips. And then, do you prefer campgrounds or RV parks with hookups? Or are you the kind of person that really wants to go more remotely and boondock and be off grid? Will you be traveling alone? Do you have a spouse or partner you'll be traveling with? Do you have kids that will be traveling with you, or pets? That definitely affects how much sleeping space you're going to need in your RV. And then, do you want to explore more remote locations, or do you want to stick to more well-traveled areas? And that's going to affect, because there's off-road RVs, that are designed for that. If you are a big, long fifth wheel, is not going to be the best for going to more remote areas where you might have rough roads and steep climbs and that sort of thing. So then there's driving and towing preferences. There's drivable RVs, there's RVs that you tow. So, if you're thinking about a drivable, like a Class A, Class B, Class C, or Super C, or whether you're thinking of towing a trailer, you want to ask yourself, am I comfortable driving a large motorhome like the Class A, or towing a trailer? And of course, whatever you get, you practice and you learn how to operate it, and you do eventually get comfortable with it. So don't let it scare you off either. Just be aware that they can be very different. And then, do you prefer the convenience of a drivable RV or the flexibility of a towable RV? So a drivable RV, if you want to be able to go off and explore from your your camping base, your home base, you're probably going to need to pull behind your RV a vehicle for you to go exploring in. So that's a consideration, something to think about. If you have, and this was kind of our case, it's like, well, we want to be able to explore. We're going to get a travel trailer, so that we can go exploring. in our truck. And then another factor is, do you already own a vehicle capable of towing an RV, or will you need to purchase one? So that's a factor. So that's a bigger expense, of course, to purchase both, just like a drivable RV is a bigger expense than a tow behind trailer or a fifth wheel if you already have the tow vehicle, right? And then how important is maneuverability in tight spaces, such as a campground or city areas? It is harder to get around, and you have to be super careful if you're driving through towns, if you have to stop and get gas. It's the bigger your rig, the more difficult it is to maneuver in those more crowded spaces. So, a lot of times we stop at truck stops to get fuel in our truck and we don't have a huge rig, but it's just easier if you've ever, and we did this, got into a town and pulled in realizing this is a bad idea. We shouldn't have pulled into this gas station. It's going to be hard to get out. It's no fun. It's no fun. So it's always has to be, in the back of your mind when you are traveling, the spaces that you get yourself into. So the other consideration is space and comfort needs. A lot of people who have started out as tent campers, and they love the outdoors and they love to go camping, but maybe this was us getting older and really wanting to be able to do it more comfortably. So that's the comfort part of it, and just how much living space will you need? Do you need 2 bedrooms? Is 1 bedroom fine with a fold-out couch? You want a kitchen? How big of a bathroom is, what size is important to you? There's what's called a wet bath, and smaller things like truck campers. The toilet, the sink, and the shower is all in one space. So that's a really tight space for a bathroom, but maybe that's fine for you. Other people might want to feel like they're at home and have a double vanity and a big shower, and those, you can find in a fifth wheel. Do you need slide outs for additional space? That's something to think about. So when you have a slide out and it's out, you gain a bunch of floor space. If you have opposing slides, so one on each side across from each other, you gain even more floor space. So, but they're also, more to set up. There's more things to go wrong. Although we've never had a problem with our slide, but some people have. So that's always something to think about. Airstreams, they don't have slides. They're beautiful rigs and they work great for some people, if you don't feel like you need that extra floor space. So, and then are you going to need a workspace? Are you going to be working from the road? And is having like a designated living area, is that important to you? Because like smaller travel trailers, they have the kitchen area and a dinette and a bed and it's all in one open area, and then they have a bathroom. So that's something to think about. And that's where when you're at an RV show, to sit in there and think about, how's this going to feel to me for a weekend, for a week, for a month, for months, how is this going to feel to me? It's important to ask yourself that. And then how much storage space will you require for gear, outdoor equipment, or personal items? Different types of rigs have different amounts of storage. So that's, especially if you're going to be full-time, that's an important consideration. And then you want to ask yourself, what amenities are must-haves? Like I mentioned before, a full bathroom, a larger kitchen with more counter space, a washer and dryer, an entertainment system. Those are nice amenities, and, how important are they to you? And everybody's going to be different. And then, of course, always budget considerations. What's your total budget, including the purchase price? You have to think about the cost of insurance and fuel costs. You have to think about storing it. That costs money if you don't happen to have room on your property to store your RV. And maintenance. Well, I'm a big proponent of keeping a savings account for those bigger expenses that come up, or things that might go wrong that are more costly than the regular, smaller maintenance. And then, of course, you're going to have to invest more money for an expensive Class A or a fifth wheel, or do you prefer a more economical option like a travel trailer or a small fifth wheel? And there's all the extra gadgets, right? And I've talked about this in other podcasts, to include all of that in the budget to get a clear idea what it's going to cost you to not only own an RV, but actually be able to take it out. And then, are you going to finance or are you going to pay in cash? That's a tough one. I think cash is always better if you can do it and not having a payment, because they depreciate quickly. And if you're financing most of it, you're going to drive it off the lot and you're going to owe more than it's worth. And it's even, more so than when you buy a vehicle. They depreciate faster than a vehicle. And other things to think about and ask yourself, lifestyle and activities. There's so many different ways to go camping and things to do. Do you plan to bring outdoor toys like bikes or side-by-sides or ATVs or kayaks? Then you might need a toy hauler, and they do come in tow behind and fifth wheel. The fifth wheels certainly have a much higher payload capacity for carrying bigger toys. And then another super important consideration is what climates are you going to be traveling in? There are units that they call 4 seasons. There's not really a particular standard for that, so know that. I have an outdoors RV, and I've talked about this before. They're really, truly a 4 seasons RV with how they're built. They're good in any really hot or really cold temperature. And so really do your research and make sure that you know what you're getting, and don't just trust the sticker on the side. Find out how they're manufactured and what, for that manufacturer, what makes them a quote-unquote 4 season, because most of them really are not. And then I think having resale in mind in future plans. How long are you going to have your rig? How long do you want to have it before upgrading or downsizing? Something, for the most part, normally they depreciate and you're not going to get what you paid, or pretty much anywhere too near that. And then different types of RVs hold their value better over time. The more expensive that you buy, the drivable big Class A motorhomes, they're going to depreciate too, but they're so well built, and they hold their value, I'm sure, much better than, like an ultralight travel trailer. Those are not going to hold their value. And then, how you travel, keeping in mind, what if how you travel changes? I mean, we went through this. We bought our outdoors RV travel trailer for camping, weekend warriors, long trips over the summer. And in 21, we're like, hey, we could sell our house at top dollar and then live in the RV until we decide where we're going to go and what we're going to do. So I was not going to go out and buy another rig. It was paid for. So here we are, still going into year 4 in a 24-foot trailer, the two of us, but we're making it work. And I'm actually looking forward to having a home base again and just going out and doing the camping that we used to do, and actually doing some big travel at some point. So something to think about. You can't always see what's coming in the future, but give it some thought, how things could, how could they change for you and how you travel. And hopefully you can make a choice that is an easy transition. If everything changes, you can still utilize the RV that you've chosen, and your family needs may change in the future. Maybe you're a young couple and, here comes the 3rd kid. I think we're going to need, in your full time, I think we might need a bigger rig. So you can't predict everything, but you can kind of look at things from different angles so that maybe you stay in alignment with the decisions that you made, even if changes come upon you. So all some good questions to ask yourself to help you to decide what your style is and how you want to travel and where you want to travel. Those are really important. And then, so by asking yourself these questions, it at least will narrow down your options and help you to make a more informed decision on what to get that's going to stay in alignment with your lifestyle and travel goals. And then I wanted to dive in a little bit into how each RV aligns with different travel needs and lifestyles, based on some key factors. So by evaluating our travel needs and our preferences against these RV types that I'm going to go over, it can help you make an even more informed decision. So you've thought about what you want, and now let's talk about what's out there and how does it match up to what you're looking for in terms of travel. So a Class A motorhome is a great choice for full-time RVers, long-term travelers, luxury seekers, and families. They are ideal for long road trips. They're very comfortable for full-time living. They have all the comforts of home. It's really like having a small apartment on wheels, and is best for staying into RV parks with hookups. But there are plenty of people out there with Class A motorhomes that have modified their rigs for boondocking with lots of solar panels and all the converters and inverters and lithium batteries, and they're able to go off-grid for long periods of time. Then the other is driving preference. Class A motorhomes are large and, like a bus, and they are very comfortable for living in and driving. They're a big vehicle to handle, and they also still have the potential of, like I said, towing a vehicle behind so that you have an explorer car or vehicle once you're parked and set up that you can go places and not have to drive your large Class A motorhome everywhere. And certainly for space and comfort, Class A's are very spacious. They have large living areas and typically like opposing slides, so lots of floor space. They have very nice kitchens and higher end amenities, and most of them have multiple slide out, so they may have the opposing slides in the living area, but also additional slides in the bedroom area as well. And some motorhomes even, they have bunk beds as well. So they're a great rig if you can afford them, and you're going to be spending a lot of time in there. It's a great way to do it. And then also realize that when you have a travel trailer, you're doing the maintenance on your travel trailer, and then you have the maintenance on your tow vehicle, but they're separate. So when you have a drivable RV, it's more complex maintenance. They're more complex vehicles. They require more complex maintenance and servicing, and not everybody services the engines in a motorhome. So I think you have to go to, you can't just go to a dealership and have them work on your motorhome engine. Excuse me. You most likely have to go maybe to a fleet, someplace that services larger vehicles for, fleets of vehicles, and are used to working on, there's gas motorhomes and diesel. So that may also affect where you take it. Maybe not everybody services the diesel engines. So just go in with the knowledge that the maintenance on them is far more complex than just a travel trailer or something like that. And then, storage can be challenging due to their size. So there's always that extra cost for any RV. So moving on to Class B, which is a camper van that's been converted into a living space. These are great. They're van life. That's a whole thing, right? A whole nother RV culture. They're great for solo travelers or couples, and they're great, for weekend warrior and adventures, but there are plenty of people who live full time in them as well. And it works for them. I think you really have to be like a super minimalist to do that, but it's nice because you can go just about anywhere in those. So they're great for boondocking and off-grid camping. They're great for short trips. They're great for road trips, and even, exploring urban areas, because, you can just park them. So they're easy to maneuver. They're much easier to drive in cities, because they're so much smaller, and they can still go to remote locations. So super versatile, and they're very compact inside. That's one that would have a wet bath, where you don't have a larger bathroom. It's very small. And you'll have everything is just smaller kitchen, smaller bathroom, and they do have sleeping area. So they are just a smaller version. So if you're not a person who needs a lot of space, it's a great choice. But they can be expensive for their size, but they do have better fuel efficiency compared, to larger RVs. And I think basically there's just 3 different chassis that they use: Mercedes, Dodge, and I think Ford. But yeah, it's great for minimalists and people who it's more of a priority for them to be mobile than it is to have a larger space. And they're easier to maintain compared to larger motorhomes, and, can be more readily serviced at any auto shop. So your Class C motorhomes, let's move on to those. These are great for families and part-time travelers, or those seeking a balance of, space and maneuverability. There are people who full-time in them as well. So maybe a a solo traveler who just needs more space than a Class B van, a Class C motorhome is a great choice. It's versatile for short trips and extended travel, and it's good for the national parks, and that because the spaces in those national parks tend to be smaller. They say, staying under 30 feet. They just were not built at a time when there were large rigs. And, you have to, when you have a large rig, whether it's a motorhome or a big fifth wheel, you really have to be careful about, where you make your reservations, that they're going to be big enough. And it's not just about the length of the space. It's the space to maneuver to get in there. And that's not something they ever talk about when you're checking on the specifics of the campgrounds and the spaces. When they're at an angle, they're easier to get into than when they're straight perpendicular to the road. A Class C is still has some good maneuverability, and they're probably a little easier to drive than a Class A just because they're not so big, but they are larger than a van. And the Class C's are built on a truck chassis, right? So those are the ones that have the cab over the top of the vehicle, kind of like a truck camper. And those are generally another sleeping space and can double as storage space. I've seen people who have a little herb garden up there, so it's a good space of mix and amenities with that over cab sleeping and storage. And then generally there's a bedroom as well. So they're more of a mid-range cost RV, and they have moderate fuel efficiency. And they're good for families who need separate sleeping areas, because there's that bunk area in the over cab and the bedroom in the back. So, and there again, it's a motorized vehicle, so there's, specialized servicing, but it's not, I don't think, as extensive as a Class A. So then we go on to a Super C. These are very cool. They're like a Class C because they're built on a truck chassis and they have the over the cab. They're a Super C because they are on like a Freightliner chassis. It's heavy duty. What they have that no other rig necessarily has is the ability to really tow much heavier stuff. And they're very nice. They're great for adventure seekers. They're great for full-time RVing and for people who want more power and towing capacity. They're designed for long-haul travel with heavy loads and towing capabilities. They're larger than a standard Class C, but built on that like semi-truck chassis, like a Freightliner. There's a few other chassis that they use as well for those, but you see a lot of the Freightliner ones. They're spacious, they're pretty luxurious, and they have great towing capacity for another vehicle or a trailer. I've seen people, they put their vehicle inside a closed trailer and tow that with a Class C. Very much more expensive, but more durable and powerful. So it's ideal for those people who need that power and durability, but also living ample space. That's very nice. And of course, you're going to have to take that to a truck-specific servicing shop in order to get work done on that. It's a semi-truck at the front of it, basically, right? So you're probably even narrower options for servicing than even a Class A. So, but they're very cool. Very cool. And then let's talk a little bit about overlander rigs. They're great 4x4 adventure RVs. They're best for off-road enthusiasts, extreme adventure seekers, remote boondockers. And I have seen the drivable kind, and there are also pull-behinds that are for overland travel. But they're built for that. They have incredible suspension systems that are, do fine in rugged terrains. They're great for, high clearance if you're, traveling over areas that you need four-wheel drive capability. And they're really compact, but they're rugged. And they don't have, the luxury amenities that traditional RVs have, but they have some very, very cool features. And if that's what you're into, it's a great option. They're expensive because they're so specialized and they're built for these off-road capabilities. But if you can do it and that's what you love to do, it's a great option. People who are explorers and really prioritize adventure over luxury this is the rig for you. But it may also require, specialty service, and, they're durable, but they're complex systems. So these are fun to look at. I love going through these. So now we get down to towable RVs. So trailers and campers. So the first one, and this is a great entry level. If you have not camped a lot, or even if you have and you don't want to go full-blown RV, the pop-up tent trailers, those are a good option. I remember we rented one of those a couple times early on while we were still tent campers. And they're pretty cool, and they're great for weekend trips and occasional use. And you don't need a heavy-duty truck, for those. You can pretty much tow them with any, probably SUV and even some other vehicles. You just want to always check your numbers. And what's, they're just this little box that you're towing, but it pops up and pops out, and then it becomes a much bigger space. And I think that they're great for families. And if you're not looking to make a huge investment, it's a great way to go. And they may or may not have bathroom facilities in them, but they're a step above tent camping. What's kind of cool about them is the pop out the bed part. It's, they're big. I think they're like the ones we've stayed in were king size beds, right? And if you're not using it to sleep in, then that's some extra storage for your stuff while you're camping. So they're more affordable. So there's minimal ongoing costs with them, although they'll have their own maintenance as well. I would say the lifespan of one of those is not the same as a hard-sided trailer, just because, especially if you're camping in hot climates, vinyl and plastic and that makes up that part that pops up, is going to be sustained sun damage over time. So, but they're great for outdoors lovers who just don't need a lot of indoor comforts. It's a great way to go, and the maintenance is simple, and it's easy to store. They'll fit in your garage, when they're not in use, or on the side of your house. So there's definitely some advantages to them. And I've actually seen some pretty large, nice ones, surprisingly large, when they're all set up. And let's talk about travel trailers. And these are tow behind. They're called bumper pulls. They're great for families, seasonal travelers, and people who prefer flexibility. So you have your travel vehicle with you. You can drop your trailer to wherever you're camping, and you have a vehicle to go exploring. But they're suitable for extended stays, frequent travel, or they have good campground flexibility if they're not too long. A lot of them, the bigger ones, you're going to have a much beefier truck. When you have like an ultralight trailer that's not too long, you won't need as beefy of a truck. So it's really, really important. That's a whole nother podcast to know the numbers of your truck, the towing capacity, the payload capacity of your trailer, and the gross vehicle weight rating of each of them, as well as the combined. Super important. I see a lot of unsafe things going on the road with people pulling trailers who do not have a truck that's really capable. And it's not about how much you can pull, it's whether or not you can stop. So whole nother podcast. So some travel trailers you can pull with an SUV or a smaller truck. There's so many different sizes available. You just got to know your numbers, and don't trust the dealership to tell you, oh, your truck is fine, you can pull it. You need to do your homework, a matter of your own safety and other people on the road. And travel trailers offer a range of layouts from small to large. I've even seen travel trailers with kitchen islands in them, with multiple slide outs, which really, of course, open up that space. And then as far as budget goes, there's mid-range pricing, and, some that are, if you're getting a really small one, of course, it's going to cost you less. And it can be cost effective compared to motorhomes, but there's some also very, very nice travel trailers that are really quite expensive, but, are clearly better quality. So, but they're ideal for people who want to unhitch and use their vehicle separately. And that was that was a no-brainer for us to decide to do a pull behind. Some people, if you haven't camped in that, just make sure you do your research and you know what you're getting yourself into. But there is regular upkeep for a travel trailer, and it's generally simple to maintain, but it's important that you do maintain it because it'll last longer, and you will have less things go wrong. I'm super big into preventative maintenance. It just pays off in the long run. Fifth wheel trailers. These are great for full-timers, long-term travelers, or if you want to live in an RV, they're very spacious. They're great for full-time travel. You see a lot of people who are full-time in a fifth wheel, but they do require a heavy-duty truck. And certainly fifth wheels offer probably the most residential feel with higher ceilings and living spaces. Different floor plans to choose from, whether you have a bunk room and loft or you have a second bedroom, second bath. There's really a lot of different options in fifth wheels. And then there's the higher end, higher cost luxury models that are available that are really more geared towards full-time living. And so for people who want a home-like comfort and space, fifth wheel's a great choice. There's a little more complex systems to maintain and a fifth wheel. The toy haulers, mentioned these briefly earlier, they come in pull behind and fifth wheel. The pull behinds are for smaller toys. I always wonder about the balancing of that whole thing. Fifth wheel toy hauler is a total different towing dynamic. So everything seems a little more easy to balance out, but they're great for off-road enthusiasts, families who have lots of toys, whether side-by-sides or ATVs, motorcycles, golf cart even. Some people travel with a golf cart. So those are great for that. Again, these are heavy units, so they require a good, very capable tow vehicle. They're heavier than standard pull-behind trailers. And then that garage area in a toy hauler is really actually pretty versatile. Yeah, you can put your toys in there, but it can also be, some people buy them just for the extra living space and the versatility of it. Some people convert them into an office who are full-time and working on the road. Due to their specialized design and durability, they cost more. They're one of the more expensive fifth wheels, but they're perfect for adventure lovers who have toys to bring with them, and they're great for full-time living. And there's, again, different amenities and things available depending on, what you're really looking for. You do, I think, tend to give up when you have a toy hauler and you have that garage space in the back. You have to give it up somewhere else, and that usually ends up in the living area. You have less space, but it's all about what is your priority and what your needs are for your specific type of camping. And then in addition to having that garage space, right? So the ramp that drops down that you pull the side-by-side in, that also converts into a deck with a fence. And it's great if you want to sit outside and watch the sunset. You're backed up to a river, you drop down your deck and you're sitting out over the water. They're pretty cool. A nice feature to have, and I've even seen toy haulers with a side deck as well. So again, so many choices in floor plans and sizes and amenities in these as well. And last but not least, truck campers. So these are great for solo travelers or couples, people who want to go off-road camping, maybe hunters, weekend trips. It's mounted in the back of the truck, so it can go in a lot of different places. It's compact, but it's efficient space. It usually includes a small kitchen and then the bed up over the cab. And, the nicer brands, they really utilize all the spaces, all the little cubbies for storage. And typically it's a wet bath, so it's all in ones in a small space. And, they're maybe more affordable than some other RV options. And, they're great if you want to go in places that other RVs cannot go and to be, more remote. And they even nowadays, they have slide outs just like a travel trailer or motorhome. So that opens up your space. Those are also fun to look at, and you have a variety of choices, but you definitely need the right truck for that. So anyway, I hope that you found this helpful, and I appreciate you staying with me today, and we will see you next time. If you find that you have any questions after listening to this podcast or the previous one, just drop me an email. I'll be happy to answer them. My email is CATHY@RVadvisors.net. Thank you so much for tuning in today to RV Advisors All Things RV podcast. Please join us again next week for more RV education, resources, adventures, and interesting people. Until then, wishing you amazing adventures, safe travels, and I hope to see you on the road.